Second, we are now live.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming to this Kolb Bridge public information meeting. Tonight, we are going to discuss the background of the bridge, the recommendations by GM Blue Plan, and then discuss the next steps. After that, we will open up the room to those that have registered for delegations that will give us questions and comments. The panel will then answer those questions as we are able. For the speakers that are asking questions, we do ask that in order to keep the evening flowing, that you keep your delegation to 3 minutes or under, and that you don't repeat anything that has been said before you by other speakers. This meeting is being recorded, so it can be watched at a later time and by those that are not able to attend tonight. You are also welcome to email us, and an email address will be provided after this meeting to provide further comments. I will introduce to you our panel. You won't be able to see them as I'm sharing my screen right now, but Adam Stanley is our Manager of Engineering Services, and he will start by presenting a brief history of the bridge and inspections, staff recommendations, and council decisions. Zach Stewart is an engineer with GM Blue Plan, and that is the company that has completed the 3 most recent biannual bridge inspections for the bridges and culverts in Saugeen Shores. The recommendations from their report are what make up the maintenance plans for our bridges. And as an aside, GM Blue Plan has been looking at our bridges for many years, back into the 70s as well. I'm Amanda Frozen. I'm the Director of Infrastructure and Development Services, which is the department to which engineering belongs. After Zach speaks, I will talk to you about the next steps that are involved in the Class EA process and what that means to the bridge and how we move forward. At this point, I'll turn it over to Adam Stanley, the Manager of Engineering Services.
Thanks, Amanda. Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Stanley. So just a brief history of this bridge and location. For those of you that don't know, it's located on Side Road 1314, approximately 350 meters south of Concession 6 in the former geographic township of Saugeen. This section of the Side Road 1314 is a non-winter maintained road allowance. It currently provides a single lane crossing over Mill Creek for vehicular traffic, and it has a 12-ton rating on it. It's currently used as a snowmobile trail in the winter months. Originally built in 1931 as a through truss design bridge. The last rehab date that we have on it was in 1998. So next we have some staff reports pertaining to the 2012-2013. I'm sure a lot of people tuning in tonight are aware of what was said back then and some of the preliminary investigations that were done. So I'll just take you through the, if you notice the August 12th, October 15th and October 28th heading there, they are hyperlinks to the minutes for those meetings that occurred back in 2012-2013. So in November 23rd of 2012, the then Director of Public Works presented an investigation report on the bridges for all of Saugeen Shores. Council directed staff to complete a detailed assessment for the Kolb, Mcewen, and Moore Bridge. Those 3 bridges were in disrepair and needing some work. So staff then got BM Ross to do a report, and it was titled Bridge Assessment Report of 3 Bridges on Low Volume Roads. So traffic counts were taken, and those bridges were assessed as far as what might be the priority as far as order of fixing them. From that report, council then directed staff to complete an open house and receive public input on those. The event was largely attended by people in the Kolb Bridge area. So many people tuning in tonight are probably were at that meeting. Later in the year, October 15th, 2013, the director then brought back another report to the committee of whole. That report summarized the 2 open houses that were held on September 4th of 2013. And then later in October, 2 weeks later, the director then brought back recommendations from the findings and those open houses. So Staff at the time recommended that only routine maintenance be performed on the Kolb Bridge, and that it be allowed to complete its life cycle and close the asset once it was expired. So staff did not take that recommendation, or sorry, council did not take that recommendation. They struck that out. They motioned that there was no need to make a decision on the Kolb Bridge yet, and the recommendation was deleted on the premise that removing it did not commit council to replace and or rehabilitate the bridge in the future. So regular maintenance was to be continued, which has been done, annual maintenance to keep it to minimum maintenance standards. And at the time, it wasn't expected that any additional bridges would be recommended for closure in the 5 to 10 years. So that's a bit of a brief history on the last 8 or so years with the Kolb Bridge. I'm going to turn it over to Zach Stewart with GM Blue Plan, who can go over some of the history of the inspections and talk to more of the structural integrity of the bridge.
Thanks, Adam. As Amanda mentioned, I'm a project engineer with GM Blue Plan Engineering, based out of our own sound office. I started with GM Blue Plan, formerly known as Gamsby and Manroe, in March of 2014, and I've been involved with the town of Saugeen Shores biennial bridge inspections since 2016. The town's asked me to attend the public meeting, as Adam mentioned, to briefly go through the observations we have made on the Kolb Bridge as part of our 2016, 2018, and 2020 reports. I will also be going through our findings with a stability monitoring program, which we initiated in January of 2019. Okay, in 2016, our staff attended the Kolb Bridge as part of the Town of Saugeen Shores Biennial Bridge Inspection Program. Amongst other various deficiencies we noted throughout the structure, we observed that the southern ballast wall had a significant vertical crack, roughly between the second and third deck stringer, which is near the southwest truss bearing point. We noted that the southern wing wall and abutment appeared to be rotating inwards toward the river, and that the southern roller bearings had been damaged and essentially maxed out against the ballast wall. We also observed that the western bottom cord of the steel truss had buckled. In reviewing our files, the rotation of the southern abutment and damaged roller bearings were noted as early as 1984. As Amanda mentioned, we've been involved with this bridge since 1977. The earliest observation of the buckled bottom cord that I found in reviewing our files was in 2004. Due to the overall poor condition of the structure, we recommended that the town assess the structure and conduct a stability monitoring program to determine if rehabilitation was a viable option. In 2018, we returned to the Kolb Bridge as part of the 2018 bridge inspection program. At that time, the structure appeared to be in a similar condition to what was observed in 2016. We didn't see any significant changes in the condition of the structure beyond what would be expected as part of normal aging. Given the advanced deterioration of the structure and the ongoing issues with the southern abutment rotation, we did recommend that the town replace the structure within the next 5 years. We also recommended that the current load posting be reassessed and that a stability monitoring program be initiated, similar to what we recommended in 2016. After the 2018 report was issued, it was decided by the town that the stability monitoring program would be initiated. In January of 2019, our staff attended the site and installed crack monitoring gauges on the northwest and southwest wing walls. These gauges were installed to try and monitor 2 existing cracks and determine if the structure was still moving, and if so, try to determine in what direction and what the most likely causes were. Our staff returned in May of 2019 to check these crack gauges and found that there had been minimal movement at the northwest wing wall. However, significant movement was noted at the southwest wing wall. Movement indicated that the southern abutment was rotating inwards towards the river, as we previously suspected. During our review of the gauges in May of 2019, we also noted 2 significant cracks near the southwest truss connection, which hadn't been seen in any of our previous reviews. I've gone through our reports and photographs of this area of the structure dating back to 1998 when repairs took place, and we have no record of these cracks. This leads us to believe that these cracks developed between June of 2018 and May of 2019. We recommended to the town that additional gauges be installed above these cracks, which they agreed, and those gauges were also installed at the end of May in 2019. Since the installation of the gauges, our staff have reviewed the cracks in November of 2019, May of 2020, and finally October of 2020. Based on our reviews, the gauges indicate that the southern abutment is continuing to rotate towards the river, with the worst periods of rotation occurring over the winter months. As a result, we've recommended that the bridge be closed until it can be replaced or the abutments can be stabilized. In the spring of 2020, our staff also attended the site as part of the 2020 biennial bridge inspections. Due to the observations made as part of the stability monitoring program and the limited extension of service life that would result from rehabilitation efforts, we recommended that the town proceed with closing the structure by the end of 2020 until a decision could be made regarding the future of the bridge. After our recommendation to close the bridge, it was brought to our attention by the town that the bridge is used by the Snowmobile Club to cross the Mill Creek during the winter months, and they requested that the bridge remain open, at least until the end of the 2020-2021 winter. Mr. Stanley expressed that snowmobile traffic would likely be considerably lighter than the current load posting of 12 tons. However, in reviewing this request, we calculated that the snow load alone on the deck, because it's a pretty significant deck area, that load significantly exceeds the current load posting of 12 tons. Therefore, we recommended that the bridge remain closed and not allow snowmobile traffic. This is a brief outline of our involvement with the Kolb Bridge over the last 4 years. Should anyone have any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to address them. And those questions can be forwarded to Adam or myself by email, which was included on the introduction slide. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for that, Zach and Adam. I will talk now about the next steps. So we are looking at closing the bridge for the winter months and including that to snowmobile traffic. This discussion will happen again at council in December. But before that, I want to explain to you the municipal Class EA process. The municipal Class EA stands for Environmental Assessment Study, and this is to do with all aspects of the environment, social, economic, things that will affect the community, not just the natural environment. So we've recommended in the budget for 2021 that this study be done for the Kolb Bridge next year, and that staff will hire a consultant to carry out this project or this process. The process includes identifying the problem, which is that the bridge has reached the end of its useful life. It will identify alternative solutions, and that will be done through consultation with agencies and the public. We will establish the preferred solution, taking into account public and review agency input. We will document the decision and present it to council. Then council will make a decision on that preferred solution, and staff will eventually implement that solution with a funding model. As you can see on the figure on the screen, there is a multi-stage or phased project plan to have this done, and that is standard through the province of Ontario. So phase 1 is identify the project statement. Phase 2 is to identify the alternatives. Then we will complete the report and move on to implementation. So through the Class EA process, consultation is a big piece. It includes 3 mandatory and 1 discretionary points of contact. The first mandatory point of contact is a notice of project. This letter will be circulated to affected individuals and agencies. A discretionary public meeting, similar in format to the meeting you're seeing tonight, would be held to help identify the problem and the alternative solutions. It is envisioned that this could be held in the spring of 2021. The second mandatory piece of consultation is to present the alternative solutions. We then review them and recommend a solution. This would occur at a committee of the whole meeting, and that would be anticipated to be in the summer of 2021. The final point of contact is a project complete or notice of project completion. Again, this is in the form of a letter and it's circulated to affected people and agencies. From this date, there is a 20-day appeal period, which means if there are people in the public or in the agencies that don't agree with either how the process was carried out or the recommended solution, then they can appeal to the ministry to have it reconsidered. The ministry reviews these requests and then they come back with a decision on how the town would move forward. If no appeals are received, then the council will receive the recommendation from the committee of the whole, and hopefully that would be in time for 2021 budget discussions. I would like to point out that this Class EA process is currently being reviewed and has proposed changes being done by the province currently. Those changes will not change how we make contact and consult with you through this project. The town staff commit at this point to having 3 mandatory and 1 discretionary points of contact to move this project forward. One of the most recent examples I can share with you is the Mcewen Bridge. It's of a similar situation where we needed to have it looked at as to be rehabilitated or replaced. So we sent the notice of project to area residents and agencies. We undertook the necessary reviews of the bridge, including a heritage assessment. We produced a report, notified the public and agencies again, and put the report on our town website. We then circulated a notice of completion and no appeals were filed. Fortunately for the Mcewen Bridge, in the meantime, the province opened up a funding stream for commuting traffic, highways and bridges. Staff applied to the province and we were successful for this. This meant that we could accelerate our construction schedule of a new bridge. And the project is closed today with construction expected next year. When it comes to the funding, as we went through the Class EA process, staff put together a funding plan where we put specific amounts of money into the budget to go into the bridge reserve so that when we could afford to have the bridge replaced, then we had the money in the bank to do so. I also wanted to show you what examples of alternatives are. This is not a complete list, and they doesn't mean that other ones would not be thought of by you who are listening tonight. We will always look at the do nothing as an option. We could always leave the bridge as is and close it permanently, let the bridge just stay there and close the road at each edge of Mill Creek. We could remove the bridge. We could close the road again at each edge of Mill Creek. We could look to rehabilitate the bridge. And I am not a structural engineer, so I cannot say that this is an option that could be done. It is just one that would be identified as an alternative. So with that, there's different alternatives in there that you could fix, replace sections. You could take out sections that could be salvaged. You could reduce the use of the bridge based on what it could support through different rehabilitation projects. We could replace the bridge with an increased capacity. We did that for Mcewen Bridge. What that means is now the bridge would be 2-lane with more than 12 ton of weight restriction on it. And we could also replace the bridge, but do it for a recreational purpose only. We could make it a pedestrian bridge or an ATV bridge only. So with that, I'm going to invite Tracy, the host, to open up the delegations that wish to speak, and the panel here will be prepared to answer any questions. Tracy, are you able to open up the first speaker?
I have, there he is.
Thank you. Welcome, Terry.
Hello, my name is Terry Lamont, And Rhonda and I own Lot 14, Concession 6 of Saugeen, the former Saugeen Township. We are directly, property is severed by Mill Creek. And with the loss of the bridge, I will no longer be able to reach the southern portion of our farm from the north portion due to the terrain and the depth of Mill Creek. I will be forced to drive all the way around the concessions to reach the other half. This is 8 kilometers, which is approximately the same distance as driving from Port Elgin to Southampton, except I'll be doing this at tractor speed. Part of my property is used in the agriculture, but the part that I use it mostly for is for my enjoyment and entertaining, using the trail system I have developed back there for ATVs, snowmobiles, horses, whatever. The loss of this bridge will take away the opportunity for me to use that. I believe it will cost me financial harm in the fact that I'll have to spend more on fuel and stuff to access it. And it will also harm my property value as it is no longer completely usable from the home site. That is how it affects me personally as a landowner adjacent to it, but also as a resident of rural Saugeen Shores. I am concerned about the north-south flow of traffic through the township rural roads. I noticed in the transportation study that it seems to only look at the two towns. In your maps that are in the study, the only time that a full map of the town of Saugeen is shown is when you talk about a route around the two municipalities. At the present time, with the Mcewen Bridge closed and the possible closing of the Kolb Bridge, it has now become a zigzag pattern for anybody to get around. It would have been nice if the Kolb Bridge could at least last until the Mcewen Bridge was complete, and thereby not putting complete harm to anybody that is south of Mill Creek and wishing to go. I also want to point out that this is not only a road that is used by the farmers or people living in that area. There is very much traffic on it. As I sat here in the past day, I noticed all the Hydro One trucks traveled this as they were returning our lights to our service. The FedEx truck, numerous corporate vehicles have traveled this road in the past day. Presently, I am sitting here looking at the Kolb Bridge, so I have a very good view of what traffic goes up and down the road. Another thing that it seems to affect me, I noticed that you are now working on the extension of Bruce Street and, sorry, it used to be High Street. The two streets out to the other part of the concession 6. It seems funny that you're concerned about north-south flow west of the highway, while at the same time closing north-south routes east of the highway. This bridge, and I just learned here earlier that they knew in '84 that there was problems in the bridge. I knew about it in '98 when I was back there while they were building the north abutment. And at that time was told that the south abutment was going to be also replaced. I believe that a do-nothing option should automatically be removed. As you can see what has happened here, since '84 or '98, whatever the date may be, the do-nothing approach has put us deeper into problems. The repair costs that could have been done for that bridge at that time are far less than what it is to cost now. I have a few questions that I asked, and you brought them up about the weight reduction. And it says you're going to look at that. I was wondering if you could tell me what the weight of the structure in itself is.
Hey, Terry. This is Zach from GM Blue Pine.
Yes,
I didn't have
I think I
I
met
didn't have
you.
time. Sorry, I was speaking over you there, Terry. Go ahead.
I think I met you back when you were doing the study this spring. I was on an
I imagine
ATV as I drove by you.
Okay, I imagine we've crossed paths. I was there quite a bit in the last couple of years. I didn't have a chance to do a detailed analysis of the bridge weight, but based on the thickness of the concrete deck and the steel structure above, I'm guessing that it's probably somewhere in the range of about 200,000 to 250,000 pounds, not including the abutments.
So what is that? What is that in tons?
That would be 100,000 tons.
100,000 tons.
Yes. Sorry, excuse me, 100 tons.
So if the bridge weighs that much, an additional 12 ton, 5 ton, or 2 tons weight to the bridge does not seem to be that much of a difference. And
No,
by restricting the vehicle.
Our concerns with the bridge, for the most part, don't specifically relate to the amount of weight that's on it. Most concerning is what's happening at the southwest abutment. We believe that that sloped embankment is putting a lot of pressure on that abutment, and the concrete connection to the steel truss is now failing. So the vertical load pressing down on the abutment isn't the critical component. It's not helping, but the critical component is the slope driving towards the river and failing the concrete.
Yes. I can see that visually when I look at the bridge myself. I have another question about your report. When you go down, I believe it's page 20 or 21 of the Kolb Bridge assessment. In the cost to repair or rehab, it states full structure replacement. I don't think you're giving a true cost to repair it. I think you're giving a cost to build a new one-lane bridge, because every item you point out says full structure replacement. Is that, am I understanding right?
It would depend on which year you're referring to. As I mentioned, we've done them in 2016, 18, and 20. If you're looking at the most recent, I'm going off memory here, but I believe we provided pricing for a full replacement, as you mentioned, or full removal without replacement. And that's based on the fact that the cost considerations for what you would get out of the repair as far as an extension of service life financially don't make a lot of sense.
Okay. What I'm asking is down to near the end, it states that full structure replacement is the number with the value beside it for repair or rehab. It doesn't say that if you were only going to fix the south abutment, this would be the cost. Everything.
No,
And if you're going to cost that, sorry.
No, you're right. We haven't considered a construction option where we only repair the south abutment. As Amanda mentioned, if we were to move forward with the EA process, we would be looking at all of the design options that she mentioned, which could include repair. I will point out that to try and replace that abutment would be quite the undertaking.
Yes, I understand, but when I read your report, repairs seem to be the same cost as new.
I would have to look into that, and I'll mark that down. And if you can email me or Adam, I'd be happy to respond to that, Terry, and clear that up.
Thank you. I have another question. When you do your reports, it has suggestions for 1 to 5 years. The 2020 report still has this bridge as 1 to 5 years. There are other bridges in Saugeen Township that have repairs from 1 to 5 years. I hope we are not waiting to the end of the 5 years to do those repairs, such as has happened with the Kolb Bridge.
For that portion, Terry, I'm going to have to turn it over to Amanda and Adam. Thanks for your time.
And thank you, Terry
Thank
and Zach. We have the maintenance plan put into our capital plan. So in the 5-year bridge plan, we have those dollar figures from that report attributed to each bridge, plus the monitoring programs, plus the transfer to reserves for studies such as this Class EA. So the budget's being presented on December 8th. And when that budget package is out, you can see where that money goes under the bridge and culvert section.
Thank you. The next ones, I guess, how will the road be closed? Will you said the barriers will be down by the bridge itself. Is that correct?
So I can take that one. Yeah, it'd be similar to how McEwen has been set up for the last couple of years, with the concrete blocks blocking both sides of the bridge. And then there would be some signage up at the intersections north and south to just speak to that, so that traffic is aware that it is closed at the bridge.
Yes, I believe on concession 2, there are cement barriers at that intersection as well.
And that's mostly because of the
Will that be
proximity.
happening next door to my house?
That's likely because of the proximity of the bridge to the road, like the intersection. We'll have to investigate that and try to come up with something that works. Obviously, if you're objective to that, we can take that into consideration and try to come up with something that's more appealing and also provides traffic with the notification they need to know that it is closed.
And the turnaround areas that will be required or something if you do allow traffic all the way down.
Correct. Yeah.
I have one more question, and it's about money. With the recent grant money for the Mcewen Bridge, is there money available in our town reserves for the Kolb Bridge?
We don't know the preferred solution yet, so I can't say that there's money to cover all expenses, but there is money in the reserve currently. It is in a positive balance, and we do, like I said, have that 5-year plan where we're putting money into it as long as that's approved by council. So once we figure out the solution, we will figure out the money and then put the money away to do that. Some of it may, to accelerate it, be a withdrawal from bridge reserves beforehand, but those will be discussed at the council level.
Okay, thank you. I spoke to Adam today and a few weeks ago. One of the big concerns is from amalgamation. And when we had an understanding that there was money in a bridge account in Saugeen Township that seemed to have been borrowed for other projects in the new community. Is there a way to get a history of what happened with the transfer of monies from the Saugeen Township to the Saugeen Shores?
We looked into that and couldn't find evidence of it. We're still trying to see what's there, but right now there's no paperwork that shows there was anything earmarked for Kolb Bridge in the Saugeen Township bridge reserves. But we're not done digging yet. If we do find something, then we'll for sure bring that forward.
Okay. Thank you. Can you make that like a public notification? That's a concern of a lot of people that live in the former township. I want to thank everybody for the time. You've answered my questions. Also for all the time that you spent talking to me earlier, Adam especially, helping me out with the questions early. Thank you very much. I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you. We appreciate your time too, Terry. I'll turn it back over to Tracy to bring in the next speaker.
And Keith Steingard is here.
Good evening, Keith. How are you? And press your spacebar to unmute yourself, please. You are still muted, Keith.
Am I all right now?
Yes, thank you. That's great.
I don't have any questions. My only comment is if the municipality maintained their assets, we probably wouldn't be even having this conversation. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for taking the time to come out. And again, we'll go to the next speaker. Good evening, Jim. Welcome to the speakers portion. And if you have a question or comment, please let us know.
My audio is good. I'm unmuted. Yeah.
You are good to go.
Okay, good. Not so much that I have questions. Terry covered it. Terry, the grand spokesman of the Six of Saugeen, is great. Appreciate Terry's efforts. I guess my thing, I'm a landowner in the area, and I think our home base is on one side of the river, and obviously we use that bridge probably more than anyone, and it's going to affect us dramatically. But I appreciate that the engineers and the consulting, everybody, they're doing the job. Am I to understand that the EA is going to happen, or is that something that, like, that's where the process starts?
That's correct. That's exactly where the process starts. It is in the budget. So like I said, on December 8th, it's being presented to council for this this coming year to start. So we could start it as early as January if approved in the budget to do so.
Yeah, so you still need approval to go ahead with that, yeah. And if, I guess I look at the Mcewen scenario and it just dragged on forever, it seems. And I'm just wondering, like, you give time frames of spring and summer and fall and everything. I don't, knowing the way that things go, I doubt that's going to happen. Can you be held to a timeline? You being, not you, I guess, can council be held to a timeline?
So with the process, that is, you're right, it is our goal. What happens to delay it is when you get different comments from agencies or from the public that need to be addressed before we move on to the next step. So I can commit with approval that we can get it tendered out to a consultant early spring and then start that process in the spring. That's really where I can get my promise to. And then we can promise to try as hard as we can to get the alternative solutions identified so that we could come up with a budget number to start a design in 2022. And that's where we'll have the funding model and a design starting, which would mean that construction could happen after 2022, starting if we started this January. But I don't know when that would happen. I can't guarantee that or make that promise because again, it comes down to money.
Right. So I understand that. I understand everybody today on the panel. It's more, I think I will be involved more with the consulting part or when we actually get the counselors in front of us and looking at options or whatever. But you folks here are just doing your jobs to report on what's going on and giving us the information we need to go forward. But so it's my understanding too, though, that the road will be closed for this winter and it probably will not be reopened until A, we do the EA, and B, come up with a solution, which may be to close it permanently. And it could be years and years, quite honestly. The roadblocks go up this fall, and that's it until we have some consensus. Is that correct?
That is true, yes.
Yeah, okay. All righty. No, there's nothing more I can add for today, and I appreciate anybody that's taking the time to log in and stuff. And you folks are just doing what you've been asked to do, but we'll see where it goes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Tracy, are there more speakers to be let in?
That is it for the public. We will be moving the counselors over now.
Thank you.
Councillor Dave Mayat will be first. Dave, if we could get you to unmute and share your video.
Okay. How's that?
Perfect.
All right. Thanks very much for the presentations so far. Like Terry pointed out, there seems to be more questions than there are answers. I appreciate the history of the bridge. It's been there since 1931, so it's 89 years it's been standing there. The one question I have for the consultant, I guess Zach, is would you characterize the condition of the bridge as imminent to fail? Because the reason I ask that is because we've seen these preeminent closures of bridges, the Mcewen Bridge, the one across by the River Road, and now this one, and lo and behold, they have not failed. The ones that are closed, they're still standing, and I would imagine that when the concrete blocks go up in front of this one, it probably won't fail in an imminent basis either. I mean, if it ever did, when there was a vehicle on top of it or the snow load was so great, it would cause a major disaster, and the resultant flooding and backup of the river could be tremendous, especially if it failed during the spring thaw. So just to put it in perspective, is this thing imminent to drop into the river, or the south abutment going to collapse inwards to the river, and then the approach would be no more passable, and possibly the whole structure collapse into the bridge? Is that where we're at?
Hello, Councillor.
Okay.
The problem with what we have at Kolb Bridge is that there is the chance it is at the imminent failure point. We don't have any knowledge of any reinforcing or what really composes that south abutment. And over the last 6 years, we've really seen that connection, specifically in that southwest corner, deteriorate really quickly. These cracks, as far as we know, are new, and they're about 3/4 of an inch wide at this point. So will it fail in the next year, when you put up the blocks? Hopefully not. Obviously, we don't like to take our reports out to that failure point. We would like to close it and replace it before that ever happens. But yes, there is a chance that failure could occur.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I can see. I've been down there looking at it, and I can see the failure modes that you're talking about. Now, we talked a little bit about the fact that regular maintenance has taken place on this bridge since 1984. And I think, okay, the approaches get graded, the potholes get fixed, but realistically, what other maintenance has been done on this bridge? We talked about back in 1998, just immediately prior to amalgamation, that there was a program to replace the abutments or rebuild the abutments, and certainly the north one was done. Assuming it was the worst one at the time. You usually start with the one that's most in need of repair, and then I'm fairly certain that there was a plan to move immediately on to the next one. Speaking with the former Reeve of Saugeen Township, Harry Tatey, rest his soul. Unfortunately, he can't chime in on it today, but he assured me many times that there was a plan to do both of those, and I'm not going to say the money was inappropriately redirected, but the job never got done. So I think it was Mr. Steingard said, if we maintained the assets properly, we wouldn't find ourselves having to close them because of an imminent failure. And I think overall, I don't believe we've done the best job we could have done to maintain this asset and identify early failures and do the repairs that needed to be done. I'm assured that there is money in the bridge reserves, and I'm sure that when we get a report to council, we'll get a report on the level of that reserve, and hopefully we'll keep on bringing that up. Now, one of the things that I will be bringing up when we get into the EA program and the alternatives going forward, and unfortunately, time is of the essence because we're about to take on the Mcewen Bridge, as Amanda pointed out. The tender process closed today, and I hope that we did get several bids on that project, because that's a project that has been a long time coming. But it occurs to me that the Mcewen Bridge, being so far up the river from the Kolb Bridge, the flow rates, even at the peak times, and certainly at the minimum times, the flow is essentially zero in that creek underneath there. You can walk across in a pair of running shoes, I like to say, and not get your feet wet in the summertime. But that's so far up the river that an alternative solution to building a full span type bridge that can accommodate highway tractors would be something that along the lines of these pre-engineered solutions. I was at a Roma conference a couple of years ago when we used to do conferences in person, and there are a number of pre-engineered solutions, and talking to the vendors who promote these things, these can be done at a fraction of the price of a full span bridge, and putting in it seems almost a waste to put a full span bridge on a little side road like the Mcewen side road that really gets minimum traffic. And I would be hopeful that we could actually consider one of these alternatives for that bridge and redirect some of the funds that we're going to put on a full bridge onto this bridge. But once again, I don't want to be the cause of slowing down the progress of getting the Mcewen Bridge going, because we're at the precipice of moving towards the construction phase. But even for this bridge, there are large scale prefabricated culverts, prefabricated concrete culverts and pieces that can be done. And Zach or Brent, do you guys have any experience with these alternatives as opposed to putting in a traditional bridge?
I can, excuse me, I can say I don't have any experience, especially with something that large. You're looking at, I think it's 30.9 meters of span, but I will defer to Brent perhaps to comment on that.
Well, yeah, those types of structures, Dave, we always look at those during the design when we're looking at the different alternatives in the design phase. Sometimes we get into a bit of that in the environmental assessment also. If it's a feasible solution, we certainly look at them because they can be lower cost. The downfalls of them, from a natural environment point of view, you're covering up more riverbed. So approvals wise, sometimes you run into problems. Not always, but you can still naturalize the river bed within the culvert. The other issue is you're creating basically a dam across the river. So your pipes that go through that embankment have to be big enough to convey the flows. And that's something we look at when we do the hydraulic calculations. But if the flows are large, then it's not feasible because you end up with so much backwater upstream. You're flooding out properties under 100-year flows or the Hurricane Hazel type storms.
Right. Just going through some of the material here, you can see that there are fairly large water courses that are used that are purported to be applicable in these scenarios, like some of what you see here in the brochure. So I hope that going forward that we would give those full consideration, if not for this bridge, but even for the Mcewen Bridge that we're looking at for the next summer's construction phase. So with that, I guess we're going to hopefully council will approve funding this fall in the budget for the Class B EA assessment, where we can look at the alternatives. I would like to see that the bridge remain open for the snowmobilers. This is where it really hits home. I like Terry, live right around the corner. I can see the bridge from my kitchen window here. It's dark out now, but if it was light out, I can see the bridge from where I live, and I use it all the time to access another property of mine on the south side with my tractor. So I'd be forced to take my tractor either down Highway 21 or back around the block 8 kilometers to get over to where my other farm is. And that would just be unfortunate because it's such an integral part of our life out here on Concession 6. As Terry pointed out, we use it. A lot of other people use it. Tourists come out and take pictures on it. It's a lovely bridge. I would hate to see it close, but for the snowmobilers, they were forced because of the closure of the railway bridge across Mill Creek to look for alternatives, and they had a couple alternatives that weren't that good going down the side of Concession 6 to catch the rail trail going south. And then last year they come up with a great innovative solution, which was to use the Kolb Bridge and then catch some properties ultimately through the Snyder's property and hook up with the rail trail again. And this seemed to be the solution to many of the problems that were being created. And now we're nixing that solution too. So if there's any way that we could, see a way to leaving this bridge open for the winter, I would be very much in favor of that. The snowmobilers are a great source of economic activity in our community, and they've just been under appreciated, I think. And so this is an important part of the use of the bridge. And I look forward to seeing reports coming to council in the budget times. I will certainly support the monies for keeping this project rolling. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myatt. And with that, we'll invite the next speaker in.
I just invited Mayor Luc Charbonneau.
Hey guys, can you hear me all right? Yeah, it's telling me my internet connection is unstable, so I may drop in and come in and out for a second, but I don't have much to say. I just wanted to say first that I appreciate you folks coming in this evening and doing this public meeting for us. I know council was keen to hear from the public before making a decision as to whether to move forward with the EA and the temporary closure. And I appreciate hearing from the members of the public who've come in this evening to give us their thoughts. That's primarily why I tuned in, was to hear from them. So I appreciate having heard from them. I think, fundamentally we have a safety issue there at this moment, and we're going to have to address that safety issue. And you just can't leave a bridge that you're hearing from the engineer is unsafe to travel on open without doing something about that. So I think I think that we're going to have to take that step to protect the safety of the public. But I think we also have to take the step with the environmental assessment to determine what to do next. And so I'm keen to hear what the options are for the bridge. I was there in some of those early steps that Adam went through went on council when we decided not to give direction to staff to close the bridge back then in 2013. We wanted to do everything we could to keep the Kolb Bridge open. And so I'm keen to see an environmental assessment with options to keep the bridge open. And, you know, when we talk about money, you know, whether or not a bridge reserve dedicated to the Kolb existed and whether or not it, you know, is there or not at the moment isn't central. The municipality has the resources to fund projects that we decide that we need to fund. And so I think if we look at an assessment of the Kolb Bridge, look at the options that are available, hopefully we can find an appropriate path forward that's you know, going to continue to serve the people of Saugeen Township. So so I'm certainly in favor of that, and I am hopeful council will be as well. And I just want to say once again that I appreciate all of you folks being here this evening. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Mayor. Tracy, is Mayor Charbonneau the last speaker?
We have Vice Deputy Mayor Mike Myatt. If you could share your video and unmute yourself.
I can do that. Thanks, everyone, and thanks for your presentations. And Terry, I really enjoyed your presentations, even a lot of good information you shared, and to the other speakers. Appreciate the information. Quick question. I have a couple questions, a couple comments. Amanda, what is our annual contribution to our bridge reserve? Are we keeping up to date? Are we falling behind? What is our annual contribution? Just curious.
We put in close to 100,000 every year, so it was 94 the last couple of years, and this year it's proposed to be just slightly over 100,000 into the bridge reserve.
Okay, we falling behind, Amanda? What, you know, is it? Do you think will it be necessary to think in the future we increase that budget reserve contribution, or how are we doing?
We do not have close to enough money to replace all bridges in the town. That wouldn't be fiscally responsible to do that, I believe. We look at funding the bridge repairs in different ways, through the operating budget, through capital requests, through taxation, through funding. But the goal right now is to keep the $1 million level in that reserve fund, so that if there is something like what happened in Erin Elderslie last year, we have money that we can access in an emergency situation.
Thanks for that, Amanda. Councilor mentioned it, and I agree 100%. You know, with ATVs and snowmobilers, that's a very important connecting link north to south. Adam and Amanda, and I'm just wondering, will the bridge be open this winter for snowmobilers, or what have we decided there?
So I can speak to that. I did talk to Zach, and he touched on it a little bit in his presentation there. It was our hope to keep it open as well this winter. Obviously, it's short notice for the Snowmobile Club to be able to go and procure different routes and options. That's not what we were hoping to achieve here, and that's not obviously the top of our agenda. We want to work with the recreational groups as best we can and provide them safe options. I did approach Zach. Zach provided a very detailed letter back on September 28th that basically said that, you know, in their opinion, it's not a safe option to leave that open for the Snowmobile Club. So I'm going to say, and maybe I'll turn it over to Zach if he wants to add anything to that. I don't foresee that happening personally.
Well, I appreciate that, and Zach, I'd like to hear your comment, because I think that, I mean, snowmobilers compared to a farm tractor going over that bridge, I guess I just don't quite get that. But if you could explain that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. So as Adam mentioned, we did look at that consideration. Obviously, a snowmobile is significantly lighter than the 12-ton weight restriction. But where we kind of got caught up is it's not by itself. You also have the snow load over the entire deck area. And given the local snow load, that load is actually well in excess of the 12-ton limitation that we have for vehicular traffic. And coupled with that, I don't know what the weight of a groomer would be, but I imagine it's significantly heavier than a snow machine. So given that information, we didn't think that it was advisable to keep it open for snowmobile traffic.
I heard I think you mentioned earlier, a 12-ton snow load with winter snow load. Is that what you said? I wrote it down.
No, the snow load is well over the 12-ton load limit that we currently have on the bridge.
I got you. Okay. Also, Zach, you mentioned, I think Terry's comment about, closing Mcewen and Kolb at the same time, to me, would really be unfortunate. And I know temporary repairs can be very costly, but I think it's unfortunate that there couldn't be temporary repairs to Kolb while we're doing Mcewen, so they're not both closed at the same time. But you mentioned a comment that repairing the southwest abutment would be quite an undertaking. Can you explain what you mean, Zach, when you say quite an undertaking? What's that mean?
Well, our primary goal, if we were to rehab the south abutment, would be at the very least to stabilize it and stop it from rotating. So you're going to have to try and develop a system to resist the driving forces of that embankment coming down behind the south abutment. Whether you use some dead man weights and cables, or excavate part of that abutment, the embankment, there's many options, none of which are really a good permanent solution. They're potential temporary solutions, but it wouldn't be quite as easy as you'd like it to be.
Okay. And Adam and Amanda, are we considering through the environmental assessment process, through your staff report, bridge conditions, repairing, et cetera, are we considering keeping Kolb Bridge open perhaps while Mcewen is being constructed? Or is that a wait and see? Is that something that we're going to be investigating through the environmental assessment stage?
No, at this point, the staff recommendation is to close the Kolb Bridge independent of Mcewen Bridge, and that we wouldn't reopen Kolb Bridge until the solution was implemented. It was either rehabilitated, replaced, or if the alternative picked is closed. Not at all.
So quite conceivably, they could be both closed at the same time.
Yes, that is a definite, because the Mcewen Bridge construction won't start till this year, and the Kolb Bridge will remain closed this winter and spring, summer for sure.
Yeah. Well, just in closing, a lot of it's been said by Dave, did a good job, and Terry, and covered it off. But I think that, obviously Kolb is a very important north-south connecting link for residents in that area, and it's not a cheap fix, but it's something that's all going to come out. I look forward to the environmental assessment, final staff report, and we're just going to have to weigh those. You mentioned 5 good options at the beginning, at the beginning of the report, Amanda. You outlined 5 good options, and there's a solution there. We just have to decide which one it is. So looking forward to receiving all the information. Thanks.
I believe that is all for the public.
Thank you. Just again, I've put up the address for Adam Stanley. If anybody out there would like to send in comments, please email adam.stanley@saugeenshores.ca. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody for listening and participating. Thank you to Zach and to Brent and to Adam for being panelists, and your great ability to answer these